Jesus bless. Let's just see what this is. At the time, the Lord said to me, this is Deuteronomy chapter 10, chisel out 2 stone tablets at the first ones and come up to me on the mountain. But you broke and I had to put them in the ark. Okay, so this is referring to, I'm remembering when I'm reading it, right? It's referring to Moses when he came down from the mountain with the commandments that Jesus gave him. And then he was so upset when he found out that the Israelites were making idols, calves like the golden calf and whatever. Nah, that's a nice scripture, 2 Kings. Let me take that. Because I just saw the Bible again, so I decided let me just open it again. So anyways, the fucking people are down there making a false god out of gold, and God gets very upset about it, and he decides that he was gonna smite them. He was gonna fucking smite them. He was gonna kill them all, basically. Before Moses reached down, he was gonna just do it. And Moses was like, no, so God spared them, and then he was even more merciful to us give him the commandments over again, because they were on stone tablets. So you can imagine they were carved in, like, however, And then Moses broke them in anger from what the people were doing, breaking God's laws, like the physical thing. And God was merciful, never mash up him, never mash up the people. I guess God could understand why he was so upset, and he gave them, God was going to kill the people. Hello. So he gave Moses another set of commandments. So that's what we were there reading. So listen now. That's Deuteronomy chapter 10, right? And then you got the one from Kings. So with my situation now, I'm annoyed. Here's what happened. I had a certain amount of money on my mom was so gracious. She sent me some money. And, I was making the money stretch and whatever. I didn't get to do all the things I was hoping to do with it. And partially that's because, I had a whole scheduled thing that I didn't get to go to because, partly because one day I checked my account and like $60 something was gone. I was like, bumbleclot, $60, bro. So anyways, it was for some subscription that, I wasn't keeping the subscription. And the way how they were charging me, it seemed sudden. But either way, I was able to get my money back by the grace of God. So literally, I had to wait. They told me a few days. First, the bank, because I disputed it with the bank, and I didn't really want to do that because as much as I didn't want to start that subscription like that, I know what the subscription is. So I don't want to tell the bank I don't know where it's from or whatever, and then no, I'm lying, and then they shut down the whole fucking card. Right? As much as I need the money, I'm not gonna do that. Cause if there's a fraudulent transaction on your card and you dispute it, they're probably going to close the card down and see about sending you a new one, figuring out what's going on with that charge or whatever. You'd hope, right? Because I've had fraudulent charges associated, with this hacking business, and the bank didn't send me back the money. The bank didn't give me any updates on to where I didn't even go into that place and make that transaction. You understand? So, and nobody not really come back to me for telling me where that come from. But anyways, that, I ultimately end up not having my card. I had to go through hula hoops to pay because I was on the road at the time. I had to go through hula hoops to get my bill paid. sitting on the phone, trying to talk to people, you know, because at the end of the day, I understand that there's stuff that we can do online to make our life easier. We still are in the physical though, bro. So if people are physically there, what the fuck you expect them to do? There was other money on the card. It's not like that's the only money. So you shut down the whole fucking card. Apple Pay now work or whatever the fuck now work. So what you expect people to do? You understand? Anyways, I mean, sure, I could probably have gone out on my way and found a physical branch to go into and hope for the best, right? So moving right along. So this is my experience. I'm like, fuck. I don't really think so. I let the bank know, however, I didn't tell them that I don't know where the transaction is from, right? So I go to the people that the transaction is from and I told them, and they were so gracious enough to refund my money. You know, they don't need it. They're good, bro. So listen, and if they need money, I'm praying to Jesus, he'll provide it for them. Because Jesus can make money just pop up out of anywhere if he wants. So, because just like how we are reading about the, I hope I said Jesus. I think I said Jesus best to start the video. When we're reading just a while ago in Deuteronomy, when the Israelites were there, he had food come drop from the sky for these people. What's on the weather forecast for today? Food. Do you understand? So, listen. The bank had said it was probably gonna take a few days to review it or whatever. When I went to the people, it said it would take a few, like even more time. So I'm like, all right, you know what? Maybe the Lord is just holding the money for me. Do you understand? Like putting some of it away, just like in the bank. And then when the time come, it will be available type shit. You know, like people who buy valuable assets and then they like sell it. You know, when whatever comes up, they're gonna sell it. You know, if it appreciates in value or whatever, even if it depreciates, it's still something that was valuable, so that when they're selling it back, they can have that they can have that cash to that. You know, they liquidate the assets. That's what the term is. You liquidate the fucking asset and you get the money. So that's kind of something like where God had the money put some just resting, and then when the time comes. So last night, I checked the account because I have something going on, right? So I'm like, maybe let me just check, maybe the money is there. And true to form, the money was there. And I was like, oh my God, I had 4 cents in my account. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the money sent. I was like, oh my God, it wasn't even $100. It was just something though. And I was like, this is enough. I'm going to be able to go to the hospital to get this thing checked out. You know, I'm going to be able to maybe get groceries. I'm going to be able to have money I'm going to be able to wash my clothes. I'm going to be able to have groceries that can, you know, money that can last me, because I don't know when I'm going to get money again. You know, unless I take up my bag over there and take up my Stanleys and sell them. Maybe that's the next thing to sell. Right? Unless, you know, I've tried to walk out on the street and get a job, like on spot, that's gonna pay me like right then and there. I'm not getting any money like that. Unless I can ask somebody and they're nice to give me money. So I'm saying, all right, I'm gonna go to the ATM, and I tried to go quickly because I don't want I don't want them to take. Even when I got the money from my mom, I took some of them. I didn't take all of it, because if I have certain things to pay, the money gonna be there to pay it on the card. However, I know I'm going to need cash, and there's scamming going on. Sometimes I check my account, it's negative and shit, and I'm like, bro, this is not the time. It's not like my paycheck is coming in on Friday with 3,000 to pay my rent and pay whatever. So I'm like, all right. I'm going to go to the ATM. I'm going to pull the whole thing off. And I'm going to work. Well, not the whole thing. I was going to leave like $10 on it because I was saying I need to take the transportation to get to the hospital. Bro, I was thinking, all right, I'm still going to go. I ran out of miles. Sometimes I'll go to, even if the deli might be open late, so I'll still go late or whatever. And somehow, unlike I usually do, even if I'm not gonna smoke it, I probably would have still gone for the mile. You see me? I wasn't even thinking that way. I was just thinking, I felt like the Lord was like, don't smoke anymore for the rest of the night. So I'm like, all right. So I'm like, I'm not even gonna go to the store and buy any. I've done this before. Him said, don't smoke anymore, and I don't smoke it. I just leave it alone. Even if I'm able to go and get more. And, I'm the person, I will walk, I will find, I've been on journeys trying to find Black and Mile, bro. You understand? So, I go to sleep. I don't go to the ATM. I just rest. Bro, I get up this morning, check my accounts, and more than half the money is gone, bro. Immediately, I started to cry. Immediately, I was like, bro, are you serious? It wasn't even from the same company. It's from a different company. I tried to stay on top of these things. When the first company did take the money out for the subscription, I went in there, I canceled subscriptions that I didn't even want to cancel. Even the singing app, the app with the music, rather, Shoom. The Lord told me I should be singing, so I went and I got that app. I had even actually gotten that app before, and I was like, even more reason to keep it. However, I don't have space on my phone. It's deleting stuff. I'm trying to make space. They're charging me, when I was doing stuff, trying to, add lyrics or voice or whatever I'm trying to do. Now they're asking for money and stuff. I think you had a free trial. So I'm like, look, all right. So I canceled everything except one thing, the space, the iCloud storage. Because if I'm having all this thing with my phone, and I can that would be helpful to have that. So when I go and when I see the iCloud storage thing pay for already, this something come pay charging more. It took even more than the storage thing. And I'm looking at this thing, and this probably doesn't even store. I don't know what the storage limit on this app is. I'm like, do you store as much? Why the fuck? You're just transferring. Anyways, so point of the matter is the money gone, bro. I was like, what the fuck, bro? Are you fucking kidding me? I can't sit down for 2 fucking seconds. I have to stitch back the fucking trap, bro. So I'm like, Lord, like, it's because I was disobedient. Because he had told me to go to the ATM. When he said yes. Like, I asked him, I should go to the ATM? And he said yes. And, I'm there and whatever, and the Black and Mile thing, and, the night just run through. Because I probably done it at the same time if I ran to the store for the Black and Mile. I'm not thinking I have to run immediately to the ATM and take out the fucking money. I actually had a thought I could rest, thinking I canceled the other subscriptions. There shouldn't really be any other bill like that, dragging out my money like that overnight, like a fucking thief in the night, bro. I'm not calling them that, I'm just saying. So here I am in poverty. People lie on me. People abuse me. People rape me. People mistreat me. I lose my job. I'm here hustling, trying to make it through. I'm not harming anybody. I haven't put a hit on anybody. I'm not blackmailing anybody. I'm not scamming anybody. I'm not extorting anybody. And money, I'm still paying. I'm still losing. And on top of it, God forbid I was lazy or disobedient and, to Jesus and lose all that fucking money. No, listen, I'm, by the grace of Jesus, something that is good will work out if he's merciful, maybe I wasn't trying hard enough or whatever, because I went to have black and mile and whatever. Honestly, ideally I would have wanted him box it out my hand. I didn't even have enough money. I took off like $15 off my card, and I didn't even have enough money left to pay for one black and mile. So the money that I do have, it's not, I'm just gonna have to stretch it. I've been doing that. I've been stretching anytime I get money, and I literally don't know where the fuck money gonna come from next. And I stretch and I stretch and I stretch. And I get to the end of it, and literally God come through. I've told you guys so many instances where when I least expect it, God comes through. And it helped me to sharpen my faith and trust in him. Because at the end of the day, I don't really care what happens to me as long as God is, he's the one doing it. I really don't. I've worked jobs and I'm still not getting paid how much I'm supposed to be paid. Even when I'm working, it's not like I got to go on luxury trips. Some people get to go on trips every holiday, and if I'm going on a trip, it was to go and see my family. If I'm going on a trip, I'm not gonna act like I haven't gotten to go on any trips at all. I'm just saying I didn't live a lifestyle of that. I didn't live a lifestyle, even when I lived on the Paradise Island, you didn't see me getting to go. I haven't gone to a lot of the landmarks and the historical sites. I didn't get the chances to do those things. So I'm used to just kind of going through, taking it going as the day goes. I'm disappointed that I lost all that money, that it's gone. By the grace of God, I might get it back. You never know. At the same time, it's not like I do have any. And, I pray I'm not disobedient. So it's not like he was like, go to the deli now. And I was like, I'm going to go later. I just kind of forgot, I could have get up and go. It's not like I was tired out to the point where I was just like, And so here's the thing too. Maybe it was a lesson to be more diligent about this. So I had an IUD put in. Okay? Years ago. I did research on it. When I first heard of it, I don't remember from where. I first heard and I was like, I got the idea and I was like, I'm getting it. And I saw that it cost hundreds at the time. There's two different ones. There's a hormonal and there's a copper without hormones. The copper works a different way. I didn't want the hormonal one. I'm not here to talk too much about that. I got the IUD. The hormonal one is like I didn't want to introduce hormones to my system. It's not like I had irregular periods. I wasn't trying to fight my body from having its period. Because I'm now thinking, if you're stopping the cycle, what is happening? Usually we want that lining is to build up and then shed off. It's building up in preparation for the egg to be cushioned there. When the egg isn't fertilized, it sheds off. So I'm saying, the egg got so expected to drop. If the egg don't drop, like what's happening in the body with all of this? So I'm like, I don't want to do the hormone thing. Let me just do the copper one. The copper, it's supposed to act as a spermicide. So the sperm goes in and it's not gonna live. It can't live in that environment with the copper. So it's like a few days or whatever. I'm not really happy about killing organisms at the same time. I'm like, if sperm don't typically live in my body like that, so I don't produce sperm. I'm not really having sperm. So I'm thinking, if for the sperm to not be there, God forbid it mess with pHs and whatever. So I'm just like, all right, let me do that. So I get that, and I go to the doctor to get it. God is good, they have different organizations. There's like Planned Parenthood and all these different stuff that could help me to get it. So I got the thing. I went to a healthcare center and had it placed. I went back to have it checked. Before I got the IUD, I had the HPV vaccine. I didn't have HPV. I got it as a preventative measure, and it was recommended to me to get the vaccine. There's different strains of HPV. However, you get the vaccine, it typically helps prevent most of it, at least. And I'm chilling. I might get a robe or something. I got this nightie from my aunt. We were in England visiting a family member, Jesus rest his soul. I pray humbly and I pray for those associated. We went to Tesco, and I think of Lily Allen. Jesus bless her and her brother. So yeah, we got the nightie and it's cute. It comes with a pair of pants. Anyways, I got my period and my pants got messed up, which sucks. So listen, and it was like a Christmas gift. I think have I mentioned that before? So listen. How they can detect HPV sometimes is if you're physically showing clinical signs, if you have atypical cells, your body is developing that, and if they do the test and they pick it up. So fast forward, like I told you guys, I go to have the IUD checked, and a bunch of tests they do, pregnancy tests. They did a couple, they were negative when I checked the results. And these are results I'm checking in today's date. I didn't check these results back then. They kind of just talked to me. And what they found atypical cells, and the HPV findings were negative. And they stated a lesion. They found an intraepithelial lesion, related to squamous cells. I studied biology. So even if they're not explaining certain things to me, I understand certain things. Even though I went off to study veterinary medicine, I'm studying general science, human medicine as well. I graduated as a scientist, a biologist. So so I'm reading it and I'm thinking, these are cells that line something. So I'm like, all right, you know, at the time of the visit, they're telling me they find the atypical cells, and she's talking to me about the HPV stuff, and she's saying that I shouldn't be concerned about it and whatever, especially since I had the vaccine. I'm not showing any clinical signs. I'm like, okay, cool. So time goes on. I experienced like a lot of bleeding with the IUD, and I mean, when I did research, it said you might experience that. Your period might, your period might not stop, because an IUD is a contraceptive device. It's like a reproductive. It's like a birth control thing. If I just try to say reproductive, you know, so that don't mean you're not gonna have your period. It's about you getting pregnant. It's like kind of like a condom. It's supposed to stop you from necessarily. And an IUD is stated to have like a very high successful rate in terms of percentage, like 99.9% type shit. Like it's, condoms. I mean, the ultimate. If Jesus doesn't want you to have a child, you're not going to. If you don't have sex, it's very likely you won't have a child, unless you're the Virgin Mary, who the Holy Spirit gave a baby. He just put the baby in her belly, bro. Like she just have a baby. If you use a condom, they have a high successful rate as well, provided they don't burst. Provided the material is appropriate, that things can't just seep through, can't just, osmosis and just diffuse through any capillary barriers, any layers. Listen, I'm not saying there's capillary. Anyways, the point of the matter is, because capillaries are more related to like blood cells and stuff. I'm thinking of like membranes that things can pass through, which happens in blood vessels. So anyways, moving right along. The IUD, like I said, usually have I'm bleeding though, and I read that probably could happen. And if there's a hormonal one, if you like that one, you may not have your period. So you could have it for years, like up 5 years, and you don't have your period. So some people opt for that one. I don't know if Jesus wants any of us opting for any of these. You understand? Because if it's his will for people to have children, you shouldn't be going to put in any device to think you're gonna stop it. So anyways, I check on the IUD, and I let people know whenever I go, I let them know I bleed a lot. Some in terms of pain and stuff, I would have heavy cramps and stuff. However, I've had heavy cramps before. Usually I would bleed for like 3 to 5 days. My period would be like 5 days on average. I might spot to take it to the week, because on average a menstrual cycle is 7 days. And then like, in a month now, when the whole reproductive cycle going on, then if you don't get pregnant, when the month come around again, you're gonna have your period for a week. When I had the IUD, I don't know when I'm gonna bleed. I'm just bleeding, sometimes just days and weeks, just every other, like my period is coming every 2 weeks. My period would come I'm trying to remember if my period ever did that before the IUD. My period would come every 2 weeks. I just have to have liners, because I'm bleeding a lot. And I think about the lady in the Bible, you know. So, anyways, some years later, I have the IUD, you know. Anyways, some years later, I have the IUD removed. And, you know, for whatever reason, I came across the report, like a physical copy of the ultrasound from that visit when I had it checked. And I didn't go to the same place where I had it removed. You know, they usually do some kind of imaging. They don't just pluck it out at the same time. They do just take it right out. You know, however, they ideally want to visualize where it is before they, and look at what's there before they take it out. Didn't seem to be any concern, you know. I think I even, so anyways, I look at the picture on the ultrasound and I see something. So I'm like, because at this point, I'm a doctor, you know, I'm trained in looking at diagnostic images. I'm trained to look at x-rays, ultrasound, MRI, CT scan, blood work under microscope, you know. I'm trained to imagine what the possibilities are. Let me get a robe. I'm just gonna put on my jacket. This is my Skims jacket. This is Uniqlo, the beanie. So I'm like, there's something on it. So I'm looking, I keep looking at it, and I look at the date, and it's like, it's saying a date that has me thinking now, how old was I? I didn't have an IUD at that age. You understand? So I'm like, I understand on these machines sometimes you have to program the time. Just like how the other day the Lord, as the Lord would have it, I was here changing the time on the clock because it was off. It's good now. It's pretty much how I set it. It didn't change. A little less than a minute behind. You have to put in the patient's name. You have to put in certain information. So, you know, I'm like, did they forget to put in, why is the date so far back in time though? You know, like this is like more than 10 years behind times. I'm like, okay then. So I call them and I don't get through. I'm not in the same state. So I put the thing in, you know, I put it in a bag. And I know where I know which bag it is. I just don't have the bag right now. I have the images because I was gonna show y'all. You know, so this is one of the images. If you look here, it's very bright. This is where the ultrasound probe is coming in from. So when you're looking at images like that, if something is very bright, it's like a metal. If you look, you see it kind of like going like this because it's like a shape, like a very distinct shape, so you can see something is there, which will be the IUD. So anyways, that's not the first image I saw though. That's not the one I had the copy of. Years later, something prompts me to check on that. So I'm like, oh yeah, I remember, let me check now. So I look back at the image that I was shown. And if you look, the IUD is up here. See that? And then, because it's shaped like a T. And then if you look down here, this is like supposed to be like empty fluid. If that's like in your uterus type shit. Because your IUD is going into your cervix. So I'm looking and I'm like, what the fuck is that? So yeah, so I check now, I go online. You know, like when people are showing, look at this, look at the baby in there, because that's a baby, guys. So I'm like, all right, so let me go. So I'm looking, so I go on the site and I'm looking at all these results and I'm like, okay. They didn't see HPV, yet they see a lesion, yet there's something else on the thing. So I'm like, okay then. So she knew that? So I'm like, if something is a lesion, that means there's something, like that doesn't necessarily mean it's a disease. So me, I don't know if they should have used lesion. They should have said growth. Because it's within, there's an intra. I mean, if we don't know what it is, because it could be filled with something like fluid, or if it's an infection. Some people have like endometritis and endometriosis and stuff, like cystic lesions and stuff that cause them to have these growths in their uterus and around their ovaries. However, I'm not looking, that's not the ovaries I'm looking at. Ovaries are like small and they're not like, they would more, unless that's, Jesus forbid, a big bumbleclot fluid filled ovary, because there's a cancer there, which is another thing I feel like the Lord is telling me I have. Especially when I do an MRI and they find a growth, a cancer basically on my spine, and I couldn't walk, and they have me in a psych ward. So, I feel like I need to call just somebody else who's open, because it's Saturday and I checked for the place and they're closed. When I found out yesterday, I called them and it's after 6 o'clock, they were closed. I was like, snap. So me thinking I'm going to go down there, that's Monday, basically, with the money I thought I was going to, and the money not there now. I mean, I can try and make it work with what I have. At the same time, bro, if people could just get stuff done even over the phone, that would be nice. I don't even know how long I'm gonna have this phone. So, if something is a lesion, think, what is growing there? Is it a baby? Because, I mean, this is a gynecologist, they're supposed to be thinking of these things. Families, right? It's not everybody. Just because I have an IUD now doesn't mean I don't want a child. I didn't tell her that. I'm thinking about, going off to school, so I may need to consider trying to be able to, not saying I can't finish school with a baby or whatever. I'm thinking of starting. Not saying I couldn't start. That would be like a brand new baby, bro. Brand new, starting to vet school. And I don't have money like that. My family, who are they gonna move over where I am? They have work, they have their stuff, they've been there. Am I gonna try to stay behind? What school, vet school? I'm not going to the one in New York. Maybe they could have made provisions. I didn't go, but that wasn't the one I passed for. So I'm not gonna go there. So I'm gonna, I'm thinking I would have just had to stay home and work, because I was working 4 jobs before I went off to vet school. So I would have had to make some work to provide for my child. The father, I would have to get, he would be involved. Maybe he could help me in school. This is where the conversation would have led to, ideally. No, nobody not really follow up on it. Nobody not say, there was a lesion. Maybe let's do a deeper ultrasound. Or maybe we have enough information on the ultrasound. Let's do a biopsy. Let's take a sample of this, put it under the microscope. Is it HPV, even though the test comes back negative, because tests aren't always perfect? Is it cancer? Is it a bunch of irregular cells which are already showing up atypical so is it like cells are dying? Is it that cells are mutated and multiplying to be cancer? Like, is it an infection? Is it a heterogeneous population of cells versus a homogeneous population? Because if it's homogeneous, that's more likely a cancer. What is the root of it? Because there's different organs in the body and things can spread. Here it is, I have something in my spine. Where is it coming from? Do I have cancer of the uterus? Do I have cancer of the ovaries? Do I have cancer of both? Is it because of the IUD that I have a reaction? Is it a baby? There's stories of babies born with the IUD in their hand. Jesus forbid the baby is in there, and this device is in there blocking it. Jesus Christ. Chopped and blood clot screwed. I'm bleeding. The baby is bawling, bro. Mourning. That's what the Holy Spirit. Because I'm not trying, that's what I was like, I was bawling. I'm looking at the date on the images. It is different from what the doctor is signing. Different from the date that is on the actual image. I'm like, is this someone else's? I spoke to family about it, and then I'm, because Jesus forbid people think I knew I had this baby and I purposefully would have let that just stay there like that. Cancer, and it's there, and I'm just going through all of this, seeking help at the hospital. It's not like I have medical bills and I wouldn't pay them. I would even ask them, I would go to the window after the services, because usually when you go, you check in, they may say if you have a copay or not, based if you have insurance or not. You go, whatever. Some of them say, all right, okay, see you. Your appointment, your follow-up is whenever. And, these people didn't even tell me to come back. I didn't leave right away. The IUD is I've just had it checked now. It wasn't a device that was always around. So even though you have studies, you may need to keep checking, especially if you're seeing lesions on a fucking ultrasound. It hurt when when it was being put in. I saw stars, bro. And honestly, like it was probably the most painful thing I ever experienced. And maybe who knows, that could have so I was saying, about people checking in or whatever. I was saying something else, and I don't know. Oh, Jesus, I rebuke forgetfulness. And, Jesus forbid, now I'm in this situation. Because like I said, I told a family member, you know, I don't know if I should, because like I said, I would pay my bills. Thank you, Lord, you know. I would go to the window afterwards. I would say, is there anything I need to pay? And then, you know, I would pay there, or they would say it's gonna come in the mail, or you check your online, you whatever. So I would pay it. Even when it was a lot and I was like, dang, like I didn't even do that, like shit, bro. Like it wasn't like Jesus, bro. If I knew, I probably would have just gone deal with it. I pay my bills. Them go on till I reach I reach now in the hospital. I seek the help. However, they put me in the hospital for weeks and weeks. They're not checking on me to see what's going on in the psych ward with my feet. You know, thank by the grace of God I'm able to walk. Yet for 2 weeks they still have me in there. My bill is so high. $80,000. How the fuck I'm going to pay that? Nobody not really tell me ahead of time, this is what you might be facing. Have you walking in thinking, oh, welcome. Like as if this was a hotel that you booked ahead of time, like a reservation you made or some shit. And then doing a bag of tests on you, tests that are not approved. I don't know if nobody really even checked there. I told them I have an IUD. The IUD was taken out at that point. I told them I've had one, you know, with the bleed, and I told them about my bleeding and stuff. I would tell people stuff like that when I go. So check records and stuff. That's in that area. That's that's where close to, you know. And you know, so God, Jesus forbid, I was disobedient, and you know, I was disobedient. I didn't get the money off the card, and it take away. So Jesus forbid, I'm disobedient. I don't jump on this and try to call somebody else, because it's in the Bible, you know. And I've said it to you guys the other day. And with this case that I told the police, with people people who are dead. You don't want that on your conscience. So there's a whole baby in there, mine, you know, the people, whoever have other images they're showing, and they're not out saying outright. Maybe they just want to see how this device work, or cut the babies up, or whatever the fuck they're trying to do. And I just don't want to sit here like, all right, Monday, like, or just keep going and more years pass. Ignorance is bliss, you know, because God, Jesus himself know why I found that, and when I did.
Hello, thank you for calling Meredith.
And honestly, I've been telling you guys, pain. Just a while ago when I took out the phone, this kind of tap against my belly, and the way how I felt, like I felt it to my ovary, to my uterus. I felt like I've told you, when, you know, when the time, like when I feel pain in my neck, like I'm to look, you know, the other day, I don't know if I told you guys this one. And I felt it multiple times when somebody literally, if somebody's like a friend or family and they do me something, like they betray me, I literally feel it in my back. Like, you know, when I say people stab you in your back, I literally feel it in my back, like the Lord is telling me they stabbed you in your back. Because I'll be like, 10% battery meaning. I'll be like, you know, thinking, you know, is it that really, like, my God, like, what was the reason though? Like, what did I do for them to do that? Like, what could have happened for the, you know, like, what, you know? I know people who were living in shelters and I had them stay with me, put on my stuff to exalt, to make them feel exalted. And I'm not saying it's enough of myself. I'm saying like I did really well with something and they didn't for whatever reason, and they felt a way about it and they asked me if they could, you know, use the thing that I had, that if people see it, they're gonna feel and recognize that they look good, they did, you know. It's kind of deceptive in a way, and I rebuke that in the mighty name of God. I wasn't, you know, however, like, I was like, you know, I get what, you know, if that would make the person, so I let them use it. By the grace of God, it didn't hopefully take away from me, because I worked for my thing and I earned it. I didn't sit down and make it myself. The institute gave it to me, offered it to me, because I did. It was up there. I represented it by the grace of Jesus, you know. So like, I'm the type of person I give even when I don't really have it like that. Even if it's mine, I give them. Just like, and I don't have mine, and I don't have another one, and I'm like, oh well, you know. So when people so literally, and when I'm trying to figure out, I'm not gonna act like I'm like, you know, the bestest. However, like, ask around, you know, you know. So when I feel these things, like when the Holy Spirit is telling me, like, you know, so if I feel that in my abdomen like that, especially I was in the hospital, I literally at one point felt like I could be pregnant, and there's skeletons. I'm going to go, and not dead. They're gonna, because you're gonna see them just on the ultrasound. Like in my profession, if you want to find out if your pet is pregnant, we can do, depending on, you know, how far along they are. You can check. You do a pregnancy test. You do a X-ray. You do a ultrasound. You know. And if you do an ultrasound and X-ray, you see the skeletons, and you can count and have an idea how much is there, you know, depending on how, you know. And so I'm thinking they're gonna probably see skeleton on there. The test come back, you know. So I'm like, all right, they're seeing stuff though. Whether them I see shit, that's like, look around. Do I need to, when I have patients, if there's stuff in obstructing, let them pass it and take the image again, because what's the point of you trying to look through a bunch of shit? If a lady's to have babies, ideally she gonna pass the shit before the baby, so the baby them not born through shit. I'm not judging that, I'm just saying, if there's a foreign body you're concerned about, and you take that image and there's a spot on the X-ray that there's a pattern, that there's something suspicious, even if you can't outright see it, you're facing choices. What you could do, depending on the state of the patient, do I need to, you know, do an ultrasound, so I can get more sensitive images, because the ultrasound gonna pick up more than the X-ray in some ways. It's more advanced imaging. Do I need to put them on fluids fast them so they're not in, just keep putting more stuff in it to cause mess up. If you're looking for something, are you gonna throw a bunch of stuff on top to try to go and find it? If this is a life or death, you're going to clear the area. Is the patient stable? You know, do we, some hospital them not even do the first question without make sure you pay something? You have the money, you have the, do you have a some kind of accommodation? Because sometimes people can make accommodations, but say it. If you're nice enough to go through without, cool. Do I need to check? So check back again, hours later, a day later. Check, look at the same spot. Does it look the same? Does something move? So if I'm constipated, depending on what I'm eating, if it's stuff with mineral in there that is gonna match the density of the bone in the baby them, you're not really gonna see it. If you're not trained to look at ovaries, you're more looking in the abdomen, you're not gonna see it, bro. Look at how much twists and turns are in the, Jesus forbid you're not gonna see it. I'm just saying. I like this YouTuber, so I was gonna look to see what she hasn't posted in a while. I'm sad about that. Anyway, I hope she's okay, by the grace of Jesus. Jesus forbid, because I don't know if I hope she's not dead or anything. Jesus rest the souls of those who have passed, and I pray for those associated. I don't want that to happen. I'm just saying, if I don't know, and then somebody be like, you didn't know, or that happens. Sometimes people pop up on me and they be like, girl, you remember this person? And I be like, yeah. And sometimes them bring you around the world to remember them, and then they're like, they died, and I'm like, what the rah? Like, what the fuck, bro? Really, bro? Like, really though? So anyway, that place isn't, so I'm gonna try and find somewhere else. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to afford. The thing is on 4%. I hope I said what I need to say. And I'm gonna, because some people, they go through a lot, and by the grace of Jesus, they fight. She's one of those people, and she talk about God, and she's a goodie. Like, put makeup, hair cute, face cute. She's very smart, very eloquent, and her vocabulary, don't play with her. Like, she be using words and she'll define it for you. Like, she's really good. Like, she remind me of like how I grew up, like having to read it. Like, if I see a word, and if I'm reading a book and I see a word I don't recognize, or if I have an idea, however I'm gonna go and get the dictionary, look up the definition, even if it's a Spanish dictionary, I have to go and come back and continue. So people like that, when they're not stupid, bro. And unfortunately, like me, I experience people testing, messing with me. They notice that Jesus is good to me and he gives me joy. He's good to people. He's good to those who love him and seek him humbly. Because he made everything. You don't just because you watch and you see the Pope in the Vatican, wherever in Rome, you think Jesus is not in China. The fuck? Focus. Jesus is all around. He's good to his people. And they see that I'm able to smile, and them see that God, even with shit like this, I don't even notice it like that because I'm too busy doing work. I'm too, and God forbid I'm like Martha, not sitting down and really listening to Jesus. You understand? I'm going to listen to him and try to find somebody else. The fuck? So they mess with people, and they try to make people seem crazy because people are just calm, speaking the word of God. If them lash a little bad word after you, that doesn't mean they're crazy. It shows that there's somebody messing with them. There's a reason. If that's the lingo, if that is what, that is the slang, why the fuck are you? Go and learn something. Just wait. I see psychotherapists, but I go call them and tell them I'm not crazy, I go tell them what they could be doing, making people crazy by not telling them of stuff on their results. Like they did when I have a whole intervertebral disc location on the same MRI, yet they're dragging me by my legs into the psych ward and not addressing my feet. When I went to the reason I'm at the hospital is for my feet. Let me see, try this one. Jesus first, love always.